Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. If you are single, you might be going through a period of time of feeling stuck. Does it sound familiar, especially during this time of year? I'm hearing a lot of people feeling stuck. Maybe you're feeling powerless, angry, even resentful about things, why things are not progressing in your dating or relationships. You may struggle to do what it takes to get out there and date, or maybe, you resist the pressure to commit fully to your relationships, or maybe doing everything you can, but your dating partners just aren't matching your efforts. Whatever the reason for your dating and relationship dissatisfaction, there are probably some underlying beliefs that are driving your emotions, driving your behaviors and disconnections, and that's causing you not to move on, not to progress. So, I want to go over some common contributing factors that may resonate with you. So, as you're listening to this, kind of check them off for yourself. It could be one, it may be part of it, or it could be all of it. The number one contributing factor I find is that you might be creating an altered world. I don't know how many of you are watching WandaVision right now. I'm obsessed with it because my sons are, and I love it. But I almost feel like it's WandaVision in reverse. And what I mean by that is that you might be creating a negative world for yourself, not a positive one. So I see this happen a lot where singles tend to focus on what's going wrong in their lives because they've had like a series of bad experiences or dates or relationships. And instead of focusing on what's right or what could be, they focus on what's going wrong. And although this is natural, it's actually a choice. Believing is seeing. And the more we focus on what is going wrong, the more convinced we become that what we see is real, thus dismissing evidence to the contrary, right? The truth is, others do notice, invest, and value you. What you're doing does make a difference. And the issues with attraction, chemistry, or flaws are inherent to all relationships. It's not just you. But sometimes when you're in that world, you feel like it's just you. It's your world, and then that's the reality that you created. So that's a first factor. Another factor might be that you're in reactive mode versus proactive. And what I mean by that is you might be waiting for that guy or that gal to initiate the chemistry that you so desire. So maybe you're not flirting until you feel something, and you might use more shoulds in your vocabulary. So, well, you should yourself to lose weight. You should be more social. You should commit. You should get that profile going. You should flirt, da 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 da. You might feel an like immediate disinterest in doing all these things because it's like nothing's happening and you're waiting for that thing to happen. And not only do the should statements create feelings of shame and inadequacy, it causes you to shut down too. And the more passive and disengaged you are in the dating and relationships, the less passion you're going to feel. So it just all feels frustrating. All right. The third reason or factor could be that you're focusing too much on others. And I did a whole podcast on this recently. So I encourage you to listen to that if you haven't. And it's really like putting yourself first. And maybe you're not. Maybe you are, just really focusing on trying to get that connection, that right date, that right relationship, and you're not letting people earn you. And the focus becomes so much on the other person that you lose yourself in situations and people that aren't good for you. So here you are, you fix them up, you fill them up, and you make them feel amazing. And then time goes by and they become disinterested and they take advantage of you, or worse yet, ghost you. And so you may even end up being their rebound or transitional romance and have acted as their bridge for them to find the next person they end up with. Does this sound familiar? So think about these three things. Now, the fourth contributing factor, which I find is probably inherent in the last three that I just went over, and that is fear. Fear is the biggest like demon, I would say, of all, because fears, there's all different kinds of fears. And again, I did a whole podcast on this, but it could be a fear of rejection. It could be a fear of failure, fear of abandonment. And and those are the most common fears that will prevent you from getting too close to someone. So, if you've had a string of bad dating experiences, bad relationships, you've been hurt in the past, guess what happens? Your guard goes up and you will be slower to trust anyone, and maybe you're not as open. So the big problem is that in effort to protect yourself from getting hurt, you're not open enough or allowing people to really get to know you, to feel you. So you end up attracting those non-committal, the ones that don't progress, aka, or emotionally unavailable relationships. So marinate in those as we move on to talk today, because I have someone very special on, and it's a woman who I don't know at all. She's been in my Facebook group. She did my flirt challenge, and she heard me on another podcast. I'm super excited to have this conversation with her, and she's needing a little help around progressing in her love life. And for some reason, whether it's online or off, she's not finding that right person to move on with, and hope that I can help her shed a little light on what's happening and give her some value and how to help her. Welcome, Susan. Are you there?
Hi, Kim.
Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm so glad that you're on here.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you.
Yeah, no, this is great. So, I would love maybe just, share a little bit about who you are and, what's going on and what more importantly, what's been challenging in your dating life.
I am a geriatric care manager, which is a social worker that specializes in older adults. And I've been divorced for a long time at this point, but I've had brief periods of trying to date, surrounded with longer periods of insane work hours and family things, elderly parents, and all those sort of things where I didn't add another person into the picture.
Mm.
And then the last, maybe about 3 years ago, I decided I was ready to try to start again. So I lost some weight, bought some clothes, a couple of things off the checklist already. And then the first year, this would be like prior to COVID, I was on Match, and I had a number of the one and done kind of dates,
Mm.
and one that I saw maybe 6 or 7 dates, and another that I saw for about 3 months before I realized that he really was not as honest with me about some things as he claimed he was.
Mm.
So I ended that relationship in the beginning of February, and in the middle of February, we hit COVID. So I also had become a little bit disillusioned with Match because I was getting the same guys recycling.
Mhm.
And either they were not responding to my approach, or they were not, I wasn't getting approached by them. And the ones that I was, they just were not my type of person. I prefer men with teeth. And
How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. Right.
I mean, honestly, they look like the chain gang. And how many fish do you want to see?
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so and also on Match, I felt like they were all describing themselves as skydivers and scuba divers and dragon slayers and, marathon runners. And, well, yeah, I can't do that. um,
Mhm.
so I changed to Elite, and I have found it's like a little nicer. level of men, but I'm having the same problems with the ones that I approach. I can tell
Mm.
they've looked at my profile because you can see who's looked,
Mhm.
but maybe more than a couple of texts back and forth. Or the ones that do respond right away, they want to get off of the site and go to some chat room kind of thing, which I have found to be that's where how the scammers kind of start.
Mm.
A- And so on the ones that I do would like to see in person, we just got the ability to be back in restaurants to a certain, with specific rules about COVID. So I would just really love to be able to practice some of the flirt techniques that you taught us.
Mhm.
And it's frustrating when you don't even get a chance to.
Yeah. Ugh, okay. I so hear that frustration. Um, I mean, beyond the guys with no teeth and things not working in that direction and dragon slayers and all that, because obviously we can't change those guys, right? Like they're going to
No,
be there.
no.
Have you pinpointed for yourself? I know, like, obviously there was a period of time where you had to, take care of business, so to speak. And um, have you noticed any patterns for yourself that's been challenging as a dater that you're like, okay, I think I need to work on this?
Well, I mean, the actual physical dating is virtually non-existent. I think I've had 2 dates, and the it's a little bit hard to get them to want to do either a Zoom date, or
Mm,
they're just not crazy about that idea. And I don't understand why, that part, because I'm sure
hmm
most of the people that I'm interested in, they all must be using Zoom or some variety of online
hmm
meeting information. Um, so that it's just been, I feel
So,
like I'm in a maze of brick walls.
yeah, exactly. That's a great way of putting it. Right. And so you're not even getting to the point where you can have any kind of date, Zoom date or in person. It just nothing
Right.
progresses. You mentioned flirting. Like, how have things been with your flirting techniques online? Like, just in the ways of your text
That's
exchanges?
been good. That's
Yeah.
been good. Oh, I have a really good example.
Okay, good.
Uh, one man told me that he was let me think, combustion engineer, which is a little over my head, but he works on creating furnaces that are more efficient and less environmentally bad. And I said something like, "Sounds like you're good at heating things up." And I,
Ooh,
he
bam.
was like, I think he fell over.
That's
So,
great.
but
Okay.
I think, and I don't know that in person I would actually say that, but it was
Huh.
easy to do behind the screen.
Okay,
Um,
good. So you're getting that script down, it sounds like,
yeah,
in that
and
way.
in other
Mhm.
situations, I'll use maybe a wink emoji, or um, you know something like, "Oh, you're making me blush," or
Mhm.
to try to put at least some emotion into typing.
Yeah, I can tell you did my flirt challenge and you're a good student. For those of you listening, this was part of like some of the techniques that I was teaching y'all. So that's good. The second question I have is, how long are these exchanges going on for? Like, how long do you hang in there with a conversation, say, until it just dies?
uh, a couple have only been short, maybe a few days of here and there back and forth, and a couple have been longer, maybe. Yeah, what
Mhm.
killed the longer ones is when I suggested the Zoom date.
So what happened with that? Like maybe in that example, walk me through like what was said, how it was said, and then what happened.
Uh, I suggested that we do that, and he said something to the effect of, "Well, that would be okay. What is your availability?" Which I thought was good, and
Hmm.
um, we talked about a day and time, and but then it didn't happen.
Who talked about a day and time? Like,
We did that night. I said,
mhm,
"Well, I work from home, so I'm really pretty flexible."
okay.
Um, so whenever you're good, and actually a lot of people are working from home.
Hmm.
Um, so, that certainly doesn't mean they're always available, because like I do have conference calls and other Zoom meetings for work. Um, but I could certainly put it on my calendar to do a Zoom date. Or, weekends. What the heck do we do on the weekend evenings these days? You know,
Right. So, like, did he pick a time at that point? And did he actually
well,
nail
we
it?
set one up, but that was the last I heard from him. And I think I sent a message back like, did something happen or never?
Mm.
And I never heard back then.
Uh-huh. Okay. So that was an example of something. Okay. Um, my other question, this is beyond just like the online dating, because and I just know this being like a caretaker myself. You've heard me talk about being a social worker, and I know you're a social worker, and plus like
Yes.
you're a, you sound like a very caring person. Like, has that been something that you've been dealing with a lot, like in your relationships? Like, how have that played out with you being that caregiver?
Um, Only I would say it was obvious to me that the one man that I saw over a year ago, I broke up with over a year ago. I saw him a couple months.
Hmm.
He had some alcohol problems, and he told me that
Mm.
he'd been in AA for 15 years. And I thought, well, if anybody ought to understand somebody in recovery, it should be me. But he really wasn't in recovery. And when that became obvious to me, it was like way off the charts bad. And I just said, you know what? I can't put this in my life. You know, I, there's nothing I can do to change this or help you with it.
Mhm.
You have to do that yourself. And
Mhm.
honestly, I had to tell him I didn't want to see him anymore 4 times. And then I texted it so he could review.
Mm. Do you I mean, I know that was just like an example, and I'm not sure like what your marriage was like, but do you tend to like attract kind of these lopsided relationships where you end up, kind of being more the caregiver?
Um, no, I don't think so.
Mm.
I think that the most of the men that I have either had a date with or dated, or a while back when I dated more, they're all pretty smart. I like smart men. I like
Mhm.
people that have good social skills and enjoy like performing arts and things like that. So I must say, I really believe they're all good guys, even the man that was a really good person with a really big problem.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and, I just said, I've been through enough in my life. I can't add him to the picture.
Mhm. Was
Um,
it was good that you had like those boundaries for yourself, that you were
oh,
able to do that. Cause there's some people who would stay in that and just try to fix it kind of thing.
no, I, I
Mhm.
understand how that system all works, and there's nothing I can do. And I can't add that to my life at this point in life.
Mhm.
Um,
So I guess the reason why I was asking is I wondered if there was like a pattern that you had detected, just in like who you're getting attracted to and even like the way that you're vetting guys online. Like, is there a certain type, for instance?
Well, I appreciate men that have a good education and
Hmm.
have had a professional career. I don't care if they're divorced, if they have kids or no kids, or
Hmm.
um, yeah, I'm pretty open to, I mean, I have adult children, so it doesn't mean it doesn't mean I would never be. Um, you're always a mom at some point, but my kids are fully functioning adult men, so I it's more of a social relationship these days, which I love.
Yeah.
um, they don't rely on me for you know kid things anymore. They're all adults, so
Hmm.
um, and some of them still had some younger kids. They must have had children. I must have been the one that had kids young. They were older, so but it doesn't bother me if they have younger kids.
Hmm.
um, I mean, the youngest I can remember anybody had somebody that was still in high school. And I did have a little like, ooh, that's a rough
Mm.
age. I thought I was done with that. Uh,
Can I ask
but,
you a question? I have,
sure.
I'm just hearing something, and I wonder if it's occurring to me as you're talking. Are you really detailed oriented?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that. Like, I hear it's interesting, like, how you answer questions, and maybe even this is, something to take a look at in the ways of, like, your conversations and how you're even vetting some of these guys is is that you answer in a lot of detail and facts, kind of factual stuff versus maybe, like, something that's more an emotion, and I wonder, like, are you able to, like, be more vulnerable and express your feelings and be more in, like, your kind of, personal state when you're talking, especially in the beginning? Or do you tend to be more reserved and kinda chit-chatty?
I tend to be more reserved in the beginning, but
Yeah.
once I trust people until they show me that I shouldn't.
Mhm.
And but in order to really be more vulnerable, I feel like I have to feel a little safe anyway.
Yeah. I'm wondering if there's we're trying to crack the code, right? As
Right,
we're, like,
right.
talking, and
That's
it's
what I'm here for.
yeah, and it's a little bit of detective work, and I think, like, I guess even just in some of the answers, you tend to get more focused on like the details of things rather than the feelings of things, and maybe just like even thinking back on some of like your conversations, and I find this to be true a lot with like people who are like a little more introverted in nature and like slower to warm up, where like
Hmm.
once you feel kind of safe and you're having a good conversation, then you can kind of let your guard down and be because you're a good conversationalist. It's not that at all. It's just, I wonder, like, how long it takes to get to kind of that underneath part, where like a guy can maybe feel that chemistry with you rather than just kind of the topical surfacey talk. Because I was just working with a woman, I'll give you a for instance, who had a little bit of this going on, and she's lovely, and she was having some good conversation, but when I looked at her text exchanges, for instance, it was just kind of vanilla. Like, I mean, there were some cute little flirty things like you're describing, but I don't think the guys were getting a sense of the emotional side of her, like, to really, like, feel her. So, like, these conversations would just kinda die. And the more we kinda crafted her ability to be in more of her vulnerable and, like, have her share things about her that were a little below the surface, as I say, her conversations got so much better and progressed, and then she was moving on to video dates. Like, there was something about what she was sharing that was kind of, like, slowing things down. And then guys just weren't sure, like, what to make of her. And I just wondered if you had thought about that or if that resonates with you.
Um, Possibly.
Mhm.
I'm as I'm trying to digest it, I'm wondering like, well, what give me an example of what I should bring into it to give them more
Yeah.
emotion.
Right, right. There's so I'll give you like a for instance, there's a difference between a chat and this could be like online or even like while you're having a conversation, say. There's a difference between an often question is, "Oh, where'd you go to school?" for instance. Let's just say it's something kind of benign
Right.
like that.
Right.
And, a typical answer might be, "Oh, I went to Yale University and I studied speech communications and business marketing. And I took such and such courses and I went there for 3 years." And, a little bit like what you were doing when you were telling me about these guys. And like you weren't really answering in the ways of the emotional patterns, you were doing more the detail, which just think about that for a second. So, so that's a conversation that a lot of people might have versus answering it, "Oh, I went to Yale University and I loved college. It was one of my like best periods of my life. In fact, when I was in college, I did X, Y, and Z." And you start like telling a little story about something that happened to you or why it was special to you versus the details of what you studied and where you went. Does that make sense? Like, do you hear that
Y-
difference?
Yeah, I've tried to do some of that because where did
Hmm.
you go to school tends to be a big early kind of topic.
Right.
And I said, well, I started college at UIC, but the only thing I learned there was my social security number. And then I got married. I only went 2 years, got married, had 4 kids. One has special needs. So, life was on standstill until I finally went back to school, got my bachelor's degree from Dominican, used to be Rosary College. Now it's called Dominican University in River Forest, because I'm really into the red brick and ivy kind of looking school. And they were just great with adult students. And they opened the social work graduate school there. And it was almost like a no brainer. I went there for my master's degree too.
Okay, stop right there. See, you're doing it again. This is what I'm saying. Like the first part was really good, and then you're going into a lot of details. Do you hear
Okay.
it? Do you hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not that there's anything wrong with it at all, but I'm wondering if, and obviously, I mean, this is more of like the coaching stuff, but just to give you like a slice of, I'm wondering if it's getting just like too detail oriented where like you're losing the guys, like you're just kind of losing that moment of the feeling and
Mm,
the flirtation of it and keeping things kind of lighter and fun. Because that also got
okay.
kind of serious, and then it got real detail-oriented and businesslike.
Okay. So, like when I tell them, like, probably the worst thing I ever did in life was lie about being 12 and riding the CTA for half price so that I could get
Uh-huh.
to Wrigley Field on Tuesdays. And then I lied that I was 14 to get in free on Ladies' Day.
Yeah, like, that's cute. Like, that
Yeah.
might be a fun way of, like and even, like, that could be a great answer online even, like, as you guys are
Well,
just
I have
you
used,
have done that, yeah.
yeah, because, I grew up in Chicago and, somebody will say, like, well, where, what part? And, oh,
Right.
yeah, diehard Cubs fan. And, that's one of my little, you know, I mean, I have this basic Girl Scout kind of personality. So,
Mhm.
that to me, that was a bad thing. You lied to ride the CTA for half fare, and then you lied to get in for free because I was
Right.
13. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, those are little cute tidbits. I guess it's just, and again, like I haven't seen your exchanges and we're just kind of taking some poking holes a little bit at different things. But I would take a look at just, just how fact driven and detail oriented your exchanges are and keeping it more in the fun part and also dropping those hankies, keep dropping those hankies about getting on the phone and seeing, the Zoom dates. And here's the thing, like you can't force these guys to be on
no.
Zoom. And if the guys don't want to and they get pushy or they're like, I just want to meet in person, blah blah. Like again, like they're not your guys, you don't have to force anything.
Oh,
And
right.
right. And so
I've adopted that attitude that,
yeah, yeah. So I think that's one thing is just maybe looking at like just the progression of your conversations. The second thing that I wonder about is just really taking a look at your dating portfolio as I call it. Just like your financial portfolio. You got to diversify as much as possible. So besides online, like what are some other things that you're doing? And I know that in COVID it's been very tough, but you and I chatted a little bit beforehand. I know you have a
yeah.
demanding job and that can be consuming. And like, what is also like just some levity and social things that you could do even virtually to get those social muscles like going and meeting people in different ways. Like, there's a ton of virtual activities that are happening, even speed dating's happening.
I do belong to a number of the meetup groups
Uh huh.
and, which is all online. And yet, even if you have like text box or chat box
Hmm.
conversation to someone there, nothing has really ever emerged from it.
So,
I
have you been open to trying to flirt with people in those venues?
yes,
Hmm.
when because if you go to the same ones, the same people start to show up at them,
Uh huh.
and so you can ask them a question about something or say, oh, new haircut, or I mean, you start to notice
Hmm.
things that they look different or something that they talked about with the group or so I've tried a little bit. The only people that have approached me from Meetup have turned out to be, it doesn't take very long into a conversation to know this is a scam guy setting you up, and they all have the same story. So,
Hmm. Hmm. Well, and
um,
the things that you can try, I mean, not everything's going to work and you're going to find that. And I think you're in a little bit of that like contributing factors that I was talking about where you've had a string of kind of just bad experience, like things just aren't working. So then it feels like insanity doing the
yeah,
same thing, trying to get a different result. And I always say this is the time where you just have to do like a break state and break just do something different to re-energize you. And I think the more that you put yourself out there in different ways to practice this, and like you said, it sounds like flirting has gotten better for you, like on at least the paper part, the text
yes,
exchanges, but like how you can do that and practice more the in-person flirting, moving to doing more virtual experiences to practice that even. And like I would like if I were you, I would sign up for something new every single week just to practice not getting attached to the outcome, because that's what flirting's all about, not getting attached to the guy that doesn't have a lot of teeth or the dragon slayers, but like could you talk to them and just practice flirting with them and opening up your mind a little bit just so that you can start feeling something. Because here's the thing, like when you get too like fact driven and kind of like in that zone of like who you're getting attracted to and who not. This is what I do and I practice with my clients all the time. And at first it's really hard for them because they're like, Kim, I'm not attracted to those guys. But it's
Well, that's what
amazing.
I'm sitting here thinking, but
Right.
isn't that sending them a wrong message?
Right. Well, the caretaker in you are going, of course, you're going to think of like the other person. I know, I know that. And I think that really what it is you're not being mean, but you're actually just opening your connection to other people. And if you look at it that way, where it's like business networking, right? Like I believe dating is just like business. You have to meet as many people as you can, and the more people you meet, you don't know who they know.
Right. Well,
And you don't know in the beginning who might be amazing for you in the end. And so I think it is a little bit of like opening up just possibilities more with what you're trying, who you're trying with, and also getting more practice at just flirting and dating in general. Cause it sounds like that would be amazing for you right now.
oh, I would welcome it, believe me.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
I feel like you need just that, like a dating plan, like just sit down and map out like different things you can do, but also in ways of strategies. Again, like the client that I was working with the other day, like when I looked into her conversations that was going on in her account, it was much different than as she was even describing it to me. Sometimes it's hard to even just when you're in it, see what's happening. And who she was getting attracted to was also interesting to me. I did this with someone else the other day. It was so funny. I'm not saying this happens to you, but like the little things that you can miss sometimes. Every guy that she was getting attracted to was like 10 years younger. She wasn't even like looking at the
Oh,
age.
no. Yeah.
I'm not saying this is you, but for her, she was missing that detail. And then she was wondering why they were all kind of like players with her. Well, I'm like, but these guys are 10 years younger than you. Like they're not they're not in the same space. She goes, Kim, the funniest thing is I wasn't even looking at their age. I was just looking at their picture. I said, yeah. Like,
Well,
right? Like that.
well, I look
Yeah.
at the picture and I think, could I see myself in the picture next to him? And if they look like
Uh-huh.
Mr. GQ, oh no, because I'm not, I don't look like Mrs. GQ.
Well, how do you know that you don't look like Mrs. GQ? Like maybe also there's something with that. Like, and this was the last thing I was going to explore with you is that you said that recently you lost a lot of weight and you got some new clothes. Like, how do you feel about your sexy image right now?
I think pretty good, actually. I think I'm
Good.
dressing so much better than,
Hmm.
I lost the weight about maybe over 2 years ago now. But that was when I decided, oh, I think I can get back into this again. And
Nice.
it's a lot more fun to buy clothes when you can buy more different things and be comfortable in them and have something that if something comes up kind of last minute, you've got something to wear. So
Yeah. Yeah. See, and this is like a new journey for you. And I think like the other thing I would, and obviously, like I haven't seen your profile, but there also could be things in ways of like your pictures that's also preventing you from like seeing
I
some of the guys that you
I
want
do
to.
think that is something that I need to. I looked at a couple of photographers to do like a photo shoot, but it's not inexpensive. And the
Yeah.
one guy that I actually spoke to about it, he wanted to do it all outside, which I think is great, except for right now.
What in Chicago? It's not happening.
I said,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're kidding. I thought he was going to suggest like a museum or, something with an interesting backdrop. But I was like, I cannot see what good does that do? Who sees you when you have a winter coat on? I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I'm with you on that. Well, I have some ideas around that because, I think it always starts with the way that you're marketing yourself. Like there could be some things with your conversation, but also just like what your messages are in your pictures, and if you're not seeing yourself as Mrs. GQ, like my hope for you is that like if I ever were to have you back, I would want you starting the podcast with, "Hi, it's Susan, Mrs. GQ here." Like that's I think there's something there with your sexy confidence. You're still kind of not totally believing or seeing that woman. And the more you see yourself that way, that's when other guys will too. And it starts with just like, yeah, like that photography session, I think will be amazing for you. And to get started, I mean, obviously, like you have to thaw out a little bit over there in Chicago, but
Yeah.
I do offer these virtual makeover sessions. I'll just kind of plug myself, obviously, to help you just get like in a semblance of what's going on. And I do take a deep dive into your profile and see like what is happening and do like a whole image assessment and first impression assessment with that. And then also giving you some ideas of different clothes and teaching you about your body type and what men find sexy and just giving you like kind of a blueprint and a game plan around it. So
Well,
that'd
I've
be
been paying attention. So,
yeah, I was
do,
gonna say that would be one idea. And the second idea I would have for you is that I would do what I call a dress rehearsal with your pictures. And so instead of waiting for spring to happen, I don't know if you have like somebody who who could maybe take some pictures, even just in the comfort of your own home. Just pick a day and get all dolled up and change like three different outfits and just get some new pictures and do a dress rehearsal. And, it all only takes like one or two good pictures that maybe you can replace the pictures that you have up there now and
yeah.
see what happens. Because also when you change the pictures, you change the algorithms and you get a new pool of people that can possibly see you. So that would be just strategy wise something that you could, pay attention to.
Yeah, I do think the pictures could be improved. I think what I have are nice, but it's not like the ones that look like they had a photographer help them. But
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, there's nothing like a photography session. And also, I think beyond just the pictures themselves, I think psychologically, you experiencing that and seeing you as a goddess in those pictures, I think would be such a like boost for you, with your sexy confidence and, moving into that when you do have video dates, like having that air about you, that energy about you, and practice that flirtiness with your sexy confidence, I think it'll start like integrating. So I think overall, like in some, there may be a little bit around just your marketing, right? So it could be the
right,
pictures. I would definitely look at that.
absolutely, yeah, the
The way that
pictures,
you're seeing yourself a little bit and the world is a little bit, I'm just hearing it. I'd like you more to 10, like I think you're getting there, but I think if you could just shake things up and do some things that are different and see and just open up your mind, open up your connections and interactions and just practice. I've never had a guy go to a psych ward because a woman was just saying hi to him. Just so you know, like FYI, like it's not like I think you're making it a way big a deal and you're just vetting too hard. Just like, just say hello to a ton of guys right now and just get you some Zoom dates. And I think things will start opening up and flowing a little bit more.
okay. Well, I can work those things in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be interested. And I was about to announce this. I have something that's pretty cool coming up March 3rd that you should definitely come to. It's free. And I'll share a little bit about it, but it's how to progress and giving you a roadmap in that progression. So that would be another resource for you. And just like keep doing things, keep putting yourself in action and doing different things to get re-energized with all this.
Okay, I'm I'm like hand up. I'll try.
How do you feel? How do you feel? Any takeaways?
um, I feel like a few things that I didn't think about you brought to my attention,
Such as?
and
Such
well,
as?
the being overly detailed and
Mhm.
not emotional enough, or giving enough of vulnerable to my inside of me
Yeah.
in things that we talk about. The getting some better, more professional pictures is certainly on my list.
Mhm.
And just I really haven't said okay to a lot of people because I felt like I cannot see myself in the picture with this man.
Yeah.
So what have I got to lose, right?
100%. You're losing now
Right.
by
I
not
agree.
doing it, right? And that's the thing that's funny about when we stop ourselves from doing anything because we always think about, "Oh, but what if?" or "I should."
Well,
And
you think,
those
what if I, flirt with the crazy guy out there?
what if, what if, what if? Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, I think you're thinking way too much ahead of things and you're caring too much about these guys or hurting them. And again, like most men are thrilled for a pretty lady like you to say hello to them. Like that's not in their mind, and in your efforts to vet for some of this stuff and your fear around getting one of these scammers or that whatever is going on in your mind is preventing you from making connections period.
Well, yeah, I've had the scammers. I
Oh
mean,
I mean they're
yeah,
everywhere, Susan, they're everywhere.
yeah.
Like they're in the grocery store too. Like they're walking everywhere. They're online, they're offline. But because you've had that experience, trust yourself and know that you're not going to
Oh,
move on with any of those anyway. So,
no, absolutely not. Yeah.
I think start seeing yourself in the picture with the GQ guy because you are a GQ girl and that is the darn truth.
Uh, that one I'm not so sure about.
Right, and that's why I want you back on the podcast when you start saying that. That's my hope for you is that
Oh,
you'll start seeing yourself. And again, like everybody has their own interpretation as a 10, whatever that is, but I do want you looking in the mirror and saying, "Yeah, like I love who I see. I am a 10 in my mind and what I am and who I am. This is my version of 10, and you deserve to have someone just like you. But, you know, to get that, you got to just open that up and have that mindset. And I do think that you'll start making some dents and movement.
okay. I'm open to trying because like we just said, what have I got to lose? I'm not
Yeah.
getting anywhere doing it my way. I might as well try
Right.
it your way.
Yeah. Oh, Susan, thank you so much for coming on and just being vulnerable right here and sharing. And I know, you listening can relate to so much of what Susan's saying. I think we've all been through those periods of time where, just things aren't clicking or working for whatever reason. And it is just like having that outside perspective and doing some different strategies and approaches to getting the results. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
You are so welcome. I do want to hear your next conversation with the Dragon Slayer. That's all I'm saying. All right. Have a good one. And thanks for joining me today, you listening. And this has been the Charisma Quotient. I am your host, Kimmy Seltzer, of course. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want to know more, make sure you go to my site, kimmyseltzer.com, as always. And here is the thing that I was talking to Susan about. I am doing a special free fireside chat coming up March 3rd at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's so perfect for what we were just talking about, the 2021 Dating Progression Roadmap to help you get unstuck and get moving into your love life. And if you're like Susan and you feel like you're getting nowhere fast, either with dating or your relationships, come and join us. And you're going to get a chance to talk to the other women. We're going to be meeting on Zoom. It's an intimate setting. You'll learn more tips on how to progress online. I'm going to do some hot seat coaching. You can get to apply for that. And you will get directly coached by me. But here's the thing, you have to register because Zoom caps the amount of people that I can have in there. So definitely click the link that you see in the show notes or on my website. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. So stay tuned until next week with more tips on how to feel and look fabulous every day.